What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Division Three Diaries page on Instagram and YouTube. Today, we are joined by Coach Braeden Melton from UW-Oshkosh. Thanks for joining us today, Coach. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, happy to be here. Really excited about what you're doing on social media for our division and for our athletes. So happy to join the fun, really. Like Tay said, my name is Braeden Melton. I am an assistant coach for the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. I've been there for 7 seasons, and this fall will be my eighth. I've been in Wisconsin my whole life, and just kind of found a good gig here at Oshkosh, and happy to continue with our athletes and the staff we have and administration here at UWO. Is fun to be around. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about me. I coached a couple local high schools when I was an undergrad, and so kind of stumbled into college coaching, which I'm sure we'll get into more a little bit here. But yeah, happy to be here.
I mean, like you said, getting into it right away, I feel like the first question should obviously be for a coach. Like, obviously, like what got you into the sport of volleyball? Did you play club? Did you play high school? And kind of going from there, like, how did you get into collegiate coaching? Like you mentioned that you coached high school, you mentioned when you were an undergrad, but how did you get into the collegiate game? Were you like an undergrad assistant and someone offered you something, or just kind of by chance, similar to Coach Martin with Smith? Just kind of describe that experience and that journey.
Sure. I started playing when I was in high school, randomly as a freshman. The varsity coach, I was classmates with his daughter, and he just asked, like, "Hey, have you ever tried volleyball?" Which I had not. Tried it out. Instantly fell in love with just the all the fun parts about volleyball. And I really connected with how my high school coach kind of laid out what motivated him to coach at that level, what motivated him to coach high school boys at that level, which is very different than coaching girls, which I found out through my journey. And so I played in high school. I never played club when I was in the youth volleyball scene, but attended a camp actually at UW-Oshkosh. Got kind of pseudo offered to play on the club team here collegiately, and so that's what I did from like 2012 to 2017. I played 5 years for the men's club team, and then during that time, I was coaching at a couple local high schools as varsity assistants, Waupun High School, Winneconne High School. In my last semester of undergrad is when Coach Elman, who's the current head coach now, got the head coaching position here at Oshkosh. And I had known John really just through summer camps. He was coaching a local high school for 12 years in Oshkosh before he was at UWO. So I knew of John, didn't really know John, but he offered me a assistant coach position on the women's team, and that was in 2017, and did that for a few seasons. In 2021, I was moved into a full-time role with UWO, and that's kind of where I've been since. And so quite literally stumbled into it, had no intentions of getting into the collegiate game. I have an English degree, not even anywhere near coaching. I haven't gone to grad school, so like quite literally fell in my lap. And grateful for it every day. But yeah,
I mean, I feel like that's a trend with a lot of collegiate coaches. Their major really doesn't line up with the sport.
at
But
all.
obviously, like you mentioned, you've been there since 2017. So I was just kind of wondering, like, how have you enjoyed, or like, what are your favorite moments from the progression of UWO, which is, I mean, pretty established program. And last year, you guys did incredible. I think you went 16 and like three against teams, either ranked or receiving votes. And obviously, you had that two-game stretch where you beat Hope and UWW back to back, which is an insane thing for any team to say. The number two, number three team, eventual semifinalist as well. So how did that like? How have you like enjoyed watching UWO over the past few seasons, just from when you started to like now, like any progression, anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, it's the process has been fun to witness as a student here, watching the women's volleyball program progressing into our early coaching days when there was a lot of work that needed to be done to, make it what we thought it could be. And that included, a lot of hard work from our staff, a lot of hard work from our players, recruiting the kids that buy into what we think could work, and them really just doing all the heavy lifting to kind of make that a reality. And I think you see that in the last two seasons, kind of like you mentioned, we had a good run, but all the credit goes to the women on our team to kind of take what we present and buy in and make it a reality. And so, yeah, I wish we could take all the credit, but we're not that smart. There's a lot of good athletes in our program that, make us maybe smarter than we are, but grateful for them for sure.
I mean, obviously, there's certain things you can't teach, and it just kind of happens, and you just kind of have to sit back and enjoy it. But you mentioned like obviously giving credit to the team, which I feel like every team deserves that. But who's just one like what's one specific player? Who is one specific player on the team that isn't might even if they aren't like say the best player on the team, they aren't someone who plays, just someone who's like you just enjoy watching because of their leadership, how much the team just rallies behind them, regardless of stats, regardless of playing time. Just someone on the team that you know is like if they get put on the court or even not, like the team is gonna look to them for that leadership, that motivation, regardless of set score or anything.
Sure. Yeah, when you prompted me with this question, I wrote a note that I wasn't going to pick one because they're like all my favorites. But we just had Miss Olivia Breinig is graduating this Saturday. She played for us for 4 years. Was an on and off player, a captain for 2 seasons, but she actually just recorded her own podcast with our head coach John, and just some of the things she talks about from a leadership standpoint, and just how she operated throughout her 4 years. Everyone kind of gravitates towards Liv, and just how she conducts herself is just kind of like intoxicating. Everyone wants to be better because she um, leads in a way that isn't authoritative, but like, let me pull you with me. Um, and by the end of her career, like, we knew Liv had to be on the court if we wanted a chance to perform at our best, not even win. Like, we might not win, but if Liv is on the court, that's just a sense of relief for our whole staff and for our players. She's someone you can turn to in a huddle after hitting error, and she's like, "You got the next one." And they truly believe that because she truly believed that in them. And so, Liv is super special kid. We're gonna be sad to see her go this weekend when she walks across the stage, but she earns it.
I mean, kind of like referring back to your answer, I feel like a lot of teams are lacking that kind of player that has that you have the next one mentality or give me the next one mentality. I have spoken to a lot of people who deal with a lot of teammates that are very like closed mindset. They make an error and they get in their head. I'm willing to admit that was me for probably my first 2.5 years of volleyball. So, I mean, hearing that is just it's beautiful to hear. And kind of going from that to the next question. Obviously, Liv is very clearly has a growth mindset, and I was just wondering if you'd be able to kind of speak on that for younger players, like, and then kind of speak on the difference between a leader and I guess a boss, someone who bosses people around rather than leads. Because from the sounds of it, it sounds like Liv has been a leader her whole career, regardless of playing time, regardless of age gap, experience. So just kind of, I was wondering if you could speak on that for like the younger crowd, just the difference between a leader and a boss.
Yeah, for sure. And like, Liv is someone I talked about, but I could have a story of almost everyone on our roster that has that same kind of mentality. It clicks quicker for some, even maybe past your playing days or well before. But yeah, I think a good leader is just in the trenches with their group, whereas a boss, if you're not leading well, you might be more, I'm up here, you're down here. I'm telling you what to do because I know I'm right. Whereas a leader, like, I think is pretty good at saying, like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but it's what we're going to do and we're going to do it together. And if you have those trust bridges built, and that goes for staff to player, player to staff, player to player, staff to staff, like any which way, I think if you build enough of those bridges, um, you can do some pretty cool things if you're all kind of rowing the boat in the same direction, um, which is very hard to get to. I think we did a pretty good job of this season doing that, but we can always still do it better or more consistently or Um, you're not going to do it every single day or every single rep, but if you do falter, do you have a support system around you that will get you back on in the right direction? And I would argue that we do. And I think that our group just has bought into that, like, you aren't in this alone, and like we aren't going to let you feel like you are in this alone. And that has created a pretty special place program to be a part of, where it's just like, as coaches we could just step back most of the time and just like kind of watch them operate in space. And um, more often than not, if we're in a match and we call a timeout, coaches usually chat for a little bit, and then John goes into the huddle. And like most of the time, they are already talking about what we were going to talk about, whether it's tactical, technical, or just like a vibe pulse check. Like more often than not, they nail it. And as a coaching staff, it's like, okay, so we've got a pretty special group if that's the case more often.
I mean, I don't have much to say after that. It's just a wonderful answer. I definitely think a lot more teams need to develop that kind of strategy, because I think it's really good for a team to not have the pressure of having a coach in the huddle to be able to talk about it. Because from what I've seen for many, like even just down to the lowest of club levels, sometimes just getting that player perspective to talk freely, it really helps. And I feel like more teams should develop it. And I think the WEAC as a whole has really done an amazing job with how they develop players, develop teams. Obviously, so many All Americans, but even beyond that. But I was just wondering, kind of transitioning into the actual game rather than like the mental and coaching side. Could you just kind of like as a whole speak on your conference? Obviously, it being could be argued as the best volleyball conference in the nation. Just kind of speak on the level of competition, on kind of how it's helped your program develop further being in that conference?
Man, it is a gauntlet. Every opponent in our conference is legit, and we wouldn't have it any other way. And every program is led by just an amazing group of coaches that um, we all just a lot of respect in the conference. We all get along, which isn't always the case. I think more in volleyball it is, but you hear other sports where other conference coaches like
Yeah,
are
they
surprised
the
are
beef.
surprised when you talk to them.
Yeah,
Um, but I'll see a bunch of them out recruiting, and it's like family reunion. Like we share ideas, we hang out before a match, we're sitting on the sideline just chatting about the season. And so I think that respect is really helpful and healthy. But as soon as like the first serve goes, yeah, it's a battle. And we had 5 teams in the NCAA tournament, and 6 or 7, like you could make a small case that they like had a puncher's chance, maybe in the old committee days. But we wouldn't have it any other way. We just feel like in order to accomplish our big goals, which are win a national championship, win a conference tournament, you have to play the best. And luckily, like you have 7 matches that are built in that will prepare you for that every season in our conference. And um, the Midwest in a whole is just a really great volleyball hub. And so we're all talking to the same kids, and depending on degrees offered or roster spots, like those kids go most of the time somewhere in our region. And so the WIAC is great, and then you zoom out, and then the Midwest region is an even bigger gauntlet. And so we're grateful, but also very stressed out to be where we are geographically when we play volleyball.
I mean, even for the players, that's got to be stressful being all in the same region. Just kind of obviously, I know a lot of players don't really care about individual awards, but even then, so like I would not like to be on that committee trying to figure out who from certain regions in the Midwest
Oh no.
get the all region. I feel like it would take me months, even from the start of the season to the end. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Um, but obviously like the WIAC competition is incredible, but based on just because you guys are such a high ranking program, you're like a lot of these higher ranking teams are willing to play you from like Hope, Julianata. But kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier, that little stretch, that week stretch where you guys beat Hope and then UW Whitewater back to back, both top 5 teams. Could you kind of just speak on like how that boosted a team morale, in general, because I feel like going into that, regardless if you were expected to win, not expected to win, if your team expected to win or not, regardless of the mindset, those two wins going back to back have got to be like monumental in morale. So if you could just speak on kind of like how your team felt after that, even if it's a simple answer.
Yeah, no, for sure. And our team's really good at understanding that if we just control what we can, like results will be what it is. So if we feel like we did all we could on our end, however we walk out of a match is just that. Like it's a W or it's a L. But how did we do us? That was a phrase that we said a lot, like just do us. And earlier in that trip, before we played Hope, like we played Juniata and we lost. And so everyone that week, is leading up to, oh, you guys played Juniata this week, how the streak, great program, a lot of respect for Heather and Casey. Um, but, you know, we lose to Juniata in four. And the fact that they were able to flip a switch and 45 minutes later play a really great Hope program, who we have a lot of respect for. We actually 2 years ago at the Elite Eight, we were at the same hotel. So like, a lot of our kids like hung out um, at that trip. Um, that weekend, we came Thursday and we actually practiced with Hope in like a combined practice, which was a lot of fun. And so we have a lot of respect for them. They're going to hang out with us when they come this fall, do a little stuff, fun stuff in Oshkosh. And so yeah, we beat Hope. Huge win, like swept them on their floor. Really cool. Um, and then yeah, no rest for the wicked because yeah, you play Whitewater on Wednesday when you get back. And our team loves competing in our conference. They especially love playing Whitewater. Whitewater's been doing it forever, for a long time at a really high level. Um, and yeah, it was our community night. Admission was free. We were trying to break a D3 attendance record, actually held by Hope. So we're still trying to get that from them. But yeah, it was a great match. That one went 5. It was crazy intense. But we knew when we won, we're like, okay, we can do hard things and we can play the best in the nation and do well and win. And um, we knew that wouldn't be the last time we saw Whitewater for sure, but it was a really good like feather in the cap that early in the season to really be like, okay, like we can we can do this. We can compete at a elite level. And yeah, I think that really just kind of reassured the team that the hard work they were doing on and off the court was paying off at that point. But the magic is how you kind of turn the dial like right after the win. Celebrate, yes, but then like tomorrow at practice, like how do we keep going?
I mean, I love that next game mindset. And I just pulled up the schedule. I didn't realize you guys also played number 13 Northwestern right after that as well. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's a that's an incredible stretch of a 3-game win stretch. But I mean, even if you hadn't beat Hope, hadn't beat Whitewater, I mean, taking a set from Julianada is no easy feat. It hasn't happened that much for the past 3 years, and what Coach Pavlik with her squad has done. So I mean, I feel like just taking a set from Julianada that stretch would have garnered, for me at least, attention, because that's an incredible feat. Just because of what they've been able to do. And I think your other Whitewater game was it in the playoffs, and I think it went 5 as well, didn't it? I can
It
check
did.
that.
Yeah, that was the conference tournament championship at Oshkosh. Yeah, they got us in 5 that one, but
I mean, having both matches go 5 just shows the level of competition in that conference. Checking this, even the game before that, the Plateville game in the playoffs going 5. I mean, that's
and
insane. But just kind of going from the conference competition, for example, for Coach Martin, it was Kaylee May, who was a player that you just respect so much from an opposing team. Someone that you play every year and you can't get enough of it. Like they could say it's like a setter. They could have 60 assists on you in 4 sets and you wouldn't be mad just because they're that good and you're that like you understand, hey, like we can do everything we want, but she's just so good. Even if she goes off, it's not the end of the world because it's just who she is and as a player mentally and physically.
for sure. I think I have a couple. Ashley Kopp from Stevens Point has caused us headaches for years. But a lot of like just we just respect the heck out of her. Um, she's just carried that program for a long time, and she was always the focal point of a opponent scout. Like, okay, um, how do we defend? Do we let her go off and not let the others beat us, or do you focus solely on Ashley? But a player of that caliber um, is in your mind a lot. And then we were talking about Hope, but their setter Lauren is a phenomenal distributor of the volleyball. She just commands that whole offense. And being a quote unquote undersized setter, but she plays big, runs a 5-1 and puts up a decent enough block to demand some respect out there. And she's actually just like one of the nicest humans that we've ever interacted with. And so she's at my top of my list as well. Yeah.
I mean, I love I can't deny I love watching Lauren Lee and watching her what she does on the court. Obviously, an obvious top five setter in the nation, hands down. Um, and I mean, kind of going off like Ashley Kopp, she won Player of the Year, right, in the conference. Was it,
Yes. Yeah.
that was
Offensive.
this year?
Yep.
So I mean, that alone should says enough about the level of competition, because that award could have gone to literally anyone in that conference. Um, but kind of like going back to the coaching stuff and kind of to round out the interview, I guess, from like a coaching perspective, um, what has been a memory from the season that you will always remember? Just like whether it was like a you and the other coaches did something for like Halloween practice, or just kind of like a moment where all the whole staff kind of sat back and said, "Wow, we are Oshkosh. This is us." Like even if it's not from this season, from spring season, from 2023, just any moment where you guys were all together collectively, like we always talk about this moment specifically.
Sure. Well, yeah, we're pretty lucky. There's John and myself, and then there's Coach Caitlin Vera, who Vera's been here for 10 years. And so the three of us have been on a sideline together for 8 seasons together. And we always have, a fourth assistant that is, popping in for a year or two. But so there's probably too many I could think of between just John, Vera, and myself. But this last season, when we were at Stevens Point for a conference match, it was for first place standings because they had beat Whitewater earlier that season, and they were playing really well. And I actually was not at this match. I was at a wedding. I was a best man in a wedding. And so I was just paying attention to the live stats, sending them messages during the match, even though they wouldn't read it, just so for them to see after the game. But it went to a fifth set. Um, Stevens Point jumps out to a 10-2 lead in set five. And just watching the live stream, you could tell that there was a sense of calm with our team. And that regardless of what that scoreboard said, that they weren't done. And then the very next play, like we shank a pass, it goes right at our setter's foot. She kicks it over the net and scores. And so it's like 3-10. And so then that was weirdly the moment where the flip switched and it was like, okay, like now we're gonna go. And they ended up winning, I think it was like 15-13 in the fifth, and that was absolutely wild. At the wedding, like just getting a severe case of like FOMO and texting them all the congrats. And yeah, it was a wild moment. And then just we had a real great appreciation for our regional this year. We thought there was a chance we could host. Yeah, I think if we would have maybe won the conference tournament, yeah, we probably host. But um, which is regardless, we don't really care whether we host or not. But we had the opportunity. We went to Marietta, and that was just really fun to watch our staff operate in that 3-day stretch of playing some really good teams in the NCAA tournament. Um, our team just mentioned just how prepared they felt for each match, which is kind of like the ultimate compliment for us. Um, and they just the big embrace hug after we beat Illinois Wesleyan to go back to the Elite Eight 2 years in a row, which is still crazy. It still hasn't processed. Like you have big goals, but nothing's promised. we won our conference regular season and we won our regional last year. The odds of that happening 2 years in a row are slim. And so the fact that we got to bring home the same two trophies the year later was pretty special. And to do it with those three other coaches was just special. It's a good group, and I'm fortunate to be a part of it with them every day in the gym. So yeah, I could go on, but yeah, those two stick out for sure.
I mean, yeah, I mean, doing that back to back, especially in the Midwest area, probably one of the most difficult things to do in volleyball. And like, I mean, I can't imagine doing it back to back years. We celebrated like it was there was no tomorrow when we made our first playoff tournament for the EA at Sage. So I can just imagine the emotions everyone on that team felt back to back Elite Eights, and especially not being like I said, not being in an easy region with like played Marymount, then you played U Chicago, and then you played IWU. So I mean, in general, I feel like regardless of winning and going to the Elite Eight, that's not anything to be ashamed of. And I congratulate you, your staff, your whole team on that because that's incredible. And I mean, next year, your guys' end of the season, I'm looking at it right now, is that's going to be a fun stretch to watch. UWP, Colby, Whitewater, IWU, Julianata, UWEC, and then the WIAC tournaments. I mean, nothing short of amazing for what you guys have been doing at Oshkosh, and congratulate you guys on all that success. But for one final question, could you just leave us with like a coaching philosophy that any level of player at any level could go back and view? For example, like one that I learned from my high school coach was that you should play every point like it's 0-0 until the set ends. You're trying to get that first point. You're going out to get that momentum for the first point. So what's like a even if it's something that's unrelated to the on court game, what's like a coaching philosophy to kind of leave us off with that you will always live by and you will always preach?
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton, and it's ever changing, but one that really sticks with me is just involve your players in the process as much as you can. Um, and you'd be surprised at how much that they understand it. Um, they if you feel like they're buying in, just kind of like let them in behind the scenes and you know, past like why we do a drill or like why we train this way. Just like little things like maybe all the admin things we do at the D3 level, like just expose them to as much as you can and involve them in the process, and you'd be surprised at kind of the results that they give you.
I mean, definitely 100% agree. When at Sage, when we're doing like recruitment, we have our players do a lot of the conversation because specifically because it's a lot different of a perspective. Say like a coach, like for example, Roz is entering her third season there, so it's a little bit different for her to speak on something than for say one of our players like Ashley Kirkman, who does a lot of the talks with recruits, who's been there since before Roz and has seen the program develop. So I definitely quite like that answer, and I definitely agree with that philosophy of letting your players get involved because it does wonders. It really does help build programs. But after that, I mean, thanks for joining today, Coach. I mean, wonderful answers. Very very well spoken, I should say. So I really appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to help out. Kind of like I said at the beginning, like I think it's really cool what you're doing on your platform, just highlighting the kids that um, play because they want to, and a lot of them are getting hard degrees while also playing volleyball, while also working, while also having a social life. And so the more shine we can put on them is only a positive thing in our world. So yeah, hats off to you as well.
I really appreciate it, and I always say this. I get to interview her later this week, but without Coach Randy at Laverne, this probably doesn't happen. It was all by chance. It's kind of like
Oh,
you should.
I saw that you're going to interview her. Yeah, we
It was a Facebook group chat, a Facebook group, and she was just like, "You post so much about D3, you should make a page." And I was like, "Huh, that's a good idea." And then it kind of just went from there.
Yes, they were at our regional 2 years ago. A lot of respect for them. They're coming back this fall, so yeah, we get to see somehow get to defend Myra. We'll try our best.
I was literally about to say Myra is probably one of my
I should
top
probably
three
said her
players.
with Lauren Lee and Ashley Cobb. Yeah, she's a monster. So
Top three, one of my favorite players to watch in the nation. I just remember watching her recently at their MIT upset, and I was like, oh boy, how do you defend? She's the kind of player, in my personal opinion, that you could even put her in the men's game and she'd have success, which is saying a lot. But like I said, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you guys have a wonderful fit end to the semester. And nothing but good lucks to you guys because that schedule next year is it's intense.
hey, nowhere we'd rather be.
Thank you so much, Coach. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Tay.